Timeless 106.1 FM KFFB. Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of Open Mic Program. We do have Senator Boozman with us. I always say Senator Boozman is the steady hand, the interviews that we do. And sometimes we need that. You know, there's been so much information. I really feel like we've almost become a talk station. But we get so many people thanking us for sharing those news conferences because they're at work. They don't have TV. So we carry the governor's news conference, and then we also have the president, usually later in the afternoon, and sometimes they flip-flop, and one is in the morning, one's in the afternoon. We are in an unprecedented time. Kind of reminds me of the stock market looking at it, of 1987 Black Monday, which was pretty scary for many. Sam Walton at that time said that, you know, when they asked him that he lost like $1 billion or something, so much money that was unfathomable. And he says, it's just paper because I make money with Walmart, is basically what he's saying, not from the stock market. And that puts it in perspective. All of us businesses need to push forward and try to help where we can.
Well, you're exactly right, Bob, and I very much appreciate you doing such a good job timely events like that so that good information can be gotten to your listeners. That I think communication is really the key right now. We really are in kind of an unprecedented situation, though, in the sense of we've got this serious health crisis, but we also have a very, very serious economic crisis. And it's not just unique to the United States. Who would have imagined that we would cut off travel to Canada or the European Union? Just these things are unimaginable. And so it's not only affecting us, it's worldwide. And I think you have to go back probably any kind of recent history at all, World War II, in the sense of it being a worldwide calamity. So it's going to take everybody working together, and I think a lot of it, Bob, is just going to be practicing what we learned from our moms, to keep our fingers out of our mouths, to wash our hands. It's social distancing is so hard. Especially those of us from Arkansas, we hug, we shake hands. I know you were talking earlier about being in church. I mean, that's just what we do, but we simply can't do that right now. Congress is working hard. We passed a big bill, $8.3 billion to help with developing a vaccine, developing a cure, treatments, helping our healthcare providers have the ability to keep themselves safe, and then also, again, as we go forward, trying to solve the problem of the virus. We passed another bill. The House passed it in the Senate, and that provides some relief regarding things like food insecurity, this and that. So was a significant amount of money, but lots of stuff in that bill to help the average American cope. And then this next bill that we'll be able to pass, I think, in the next few days, it will have to do with giving businesses relief that they very much need. Businesses and then also the employees. We're having all kinds of significant layoffs right now. And so this is really going to take everybody working together to get us through this.
You look at this your day-to-day activity. I mean, you shake hundreds of hands, and this is something us older guys have to learn not to do. That's one reason I did not go to church last Sunday. I just said to my wife, I said, they're telling us not to, and I'm the worst. When someone puts their hand out, I'll shake. And I think that's part of our reconditioning right now. But this really helps with all diseases, really. I mean, this is a good thing for us to practice to become a little more aware, too.
No, you're right. But, certainly is unique. We have to be careful. I know this disease is strange in the sense that most people that acquire this under 60 don't die. They can become very, very seriously ill, though. Be in a situation where they need to be in intensive care for several days and clogging up the hospital system. So the good news is not many people are dying at that age, but some of them are getting very, very sick. What we don't want to do is, for those in that age group, you have a tendency to say, well, it's not going to affect me, but it will affect the system and make it such that if we get so clogged up, then other people won't have access. And then, certainly is a bigger problem, Bob. I know myself, I'm really trying to be careful in the sense the last thing I want to do is catch it and then give it to somebody else that's at high risk. And so, these are just things that we're going to have to think about and make sure that we do not only what's best for us, but best for the rest of the folks. Number one thing right now is keeping our families and communities safe.
We also talk about blood. You could give blood. They're going to screen all this and be very careful. They're checking temperatures. Most of the hospitals have come into a special check temperatures, limiting visitors. Nursing homes have had lockdowns in many areas in our listening area where they can't accept any visitors. And that is one thing that was told to by Dr. Coward, who has two practices, believe it or not, one in a clinic in Fairfield Bay and one also in Clinton. His Fairfield Bay is for wellness because that's an older population. His one in Clinton is for those with illnesses. And then they will transfer, if you feel like you have the coronavirus, to the Conway Regional Hospital for their clinic. And it has to be doctor recommended. And then you have Heber Springs where you can call if you think you've been exposed because of the Greers Ferry incident there. And they're all doing the precaution. Everybody's stepping up. And our healthcare professionals are second to none in our listening area.
We're really blessed, Bob. Everybody agrees that the United States has the number one infectious disease leadership and abilities of any place in the world. We can be very, very proud of that. So they have stepped up and really are putting themselves on the front lines. And then all of the other people that are working so hard. We think about going into the grocery store and buying things. Well, people are working hard to stock those shelves, and certainly they're not able to isolate themselves quite like they'd like, I'm sure, at times. The truck drivers that are bringing that in. If this thing progresses on, then because of sickness, probably they're going to have to work that much harder, those that aren't affected. So these are serious things. The good news, though, is that the American people are stepping up, and we hear all of the stories of people taking care of their elderly neighbors, perhaps going to the store for them where they don't need to get out. You mentioned blood, and blood right now, because of the fact that people are staying in, is really in very, very short supply. And so I would really encourage your listeners, if they would like to donate, we need to do that safely. They need to call a hospital, call whatever, and ask how they can do that safely. And I'm sure somebody can give them guidance. But that is something that right now in Arkansas is really throughout the country, particularly in Arkansas, is in short supply.
Oh, we just got to remind Arkansans to wash their hands, keep safe distances, and don't sneeze on anyone, don't cough on anyone, and this helps. And I was at one of the franchise stores last Saturday. We had a live broadcast, believe it or not, in Cabot, Arkansas, and I sat down and had an early breakfast, and I noticed that they were cleaning all the areas and doorknobs and everything 3 times during my breakfast. So we are doing a great job. Everyone's stepping up, and it's going to be safer for all, for those that do get out.
It is. We got, some other people are working hard in that regard. We've got problems with child care now because of the schools being out. We're going to have to work through those kind of things. It's interesting, Bob. I've done lots and lots of interviews in the last couple of weeks about this, and I can remember early last week giving an interview and talking about how there was 500 cases. Now here we are a little over a week later, and we're at 7,600. And so I think the next couple weeks are really going to be critical. If we can keep this from accelerating, that will be great. That'll make it such that we'll get through this much easier. If we continue to see, a more than 10 times increase in the next week, you go from 500 to 7,600. If we see the same change where we go from 7,600 times 10, 76,000, then you're starting to have problems. These are things that are being watched very, very closely. Hopefully we're bending that curve down because your listeners are doing a good job of being responsible and trying to do our best to do about the things that we've been talking about.
And also the supply chain. We got to mention that too. The supply chain is strong. We've got to say that Walmart, which is great in Arkansas business, and all the other grocery stores, and Harps and Kroger and all those that we have in our listening area are doing a very good job keeping supplies moving.
They are doing a good job, and this will all work. One of the things, though, that we can't do is buy more than what we need. In the old days, you used to have a lot of warehouses. You can go downtown and you see all of these old warehouses that they've converted to other stuff or just old buildings. Now, with on-time delivery, our retailers are very, very efficient. They just send in what's needed. So the new warehouses are really the trucks on the road. And so all of that system works great unless you start overbuying. And so I'd really encourage your listeners, you don't need to buy, 10 packs of toilet paper. Let's keep it down to 1 or 2. If we can do those kind of things, same with milk and eggs and bread, all of the other things, hand sanitizers. If we can do that, then things will work. If not, then we start running into shortages, which nobody wants. The other thing I've really been pleased with, you mentioned the supply chain, and our big companies, sometimes our little companies, are protecting the people that supply them. Maybe they're having a cash crunch right now for whatever reason. They're actually, in many cases, fronting them the money or, just not allowing to not be paid on time. So right now, the system is working. It's lots of just good Americans helping each other out to make the system work. But we as individuals, it's so important that we don't overbuy. We buy what we need, and then it'll be there, and it will be there.
Exactly. One thing, when you look at the milk and the bread company has been able to keep up. I mean, they are really working hard. But milk and eggs, that is not something you can tell that cow to give more than 10 gallons a day. They're limited supply, and that comes from the farm. So I kind of made that joke, and people looked at me like, wow, I guess that's why. That's why there's a shortage. They only have so much supply. You can't raise a cow fast enough to give milk. So those are some things that I know are obstacles, but we will level out soon.
No, I agree totally. And the good news is people are trying. The system is getting back on track. As I said, I think the next few weeks are really going to be critical as to where we go from now. The thing that's unusual about this is that generally you can kind of see an end. This will end eventually. I think it's going to be a matter more of weeks into months. I do know that talking to the people that are the experts, the infectious disease people that are so good, all of them agree that if we're careful right now and bend this curve down, we'll have much, much less problem in the future. We're having significant damage to the economy, but everything will work better if we act responsibly and make sure that we're not spreading the disease.
Well, Senator, thanks for taking time. I know they told me we got a very short window. You are a very busy man, lots of interviews throughout the state, and we will be in touch and keep you updated what's going on here, and you can let us know what goes on next.
Well, thank you, Bob. And again, thank you for doing such a good job and informing the public. Certainly if they're having any problems at the federal level, if they're having IRS problems, if they're having whatever problems that come up, Social Security, veterans, the list goes on. They can look at internet, look at our website and find the numbers to call. But we would be glad, I know that I can speak for the rest of the delegation, we would be glad to help them in any way. This is just a time for all of us to work together. We're going to get through this, but it is going to take a lot of cooperation, and that's really what America's all about, and that way we'll be able to keep our families and our communities safe.